If you could help us give a walkthrough on the quantitative models that you build, what really goes into building these models, what kind of data is used, how often are these models reviewed, and once you make them or review them, how do you validate them? Like, how does it all really work? Because what I understand is ultimately it is this quantitative models that do the money making.
So let me, maybe the best way maybe to answer this is to give you a couple of examples of what goes behind the scene, right? So see, as I told you before, right, I'm a passionate trader turned into a quant researcher to a quant portfolio manager, right? My journey happened that way. So I was always intrigued with chart when I was studying my trading career. I love looking at charts. I love to find patterns on those charts, right? And eventually, when I moved to the quant side of things or algo side of things, uh, I always thought like, how can this can be done in a mathematical way, right? Because when you typically look at chart, right, different market, different instruments, normally people say different kind of chart pattern works, different kind of time duration works, right? There are thousands of chart patterns, there are thousands of trading universes in the world. How to do that if you want to do it through a machine? So that was a challenge which I presented to one of my researchers, right? And the way we approach the problem, right? He said, sir, I don't care about 100, 200, 1,000 or 1 lakh chart patterns, right? Let machine do that. So what we did is we would use machine learning. So this is where we say, I want to add one thing. Machine learning is very critical to financial markets. AI is not. So still there's no penetration of AI in market, but machine learning is quite prevalent in what we do. So one of our researcher used machine learning and he literally built a library of more than 1 lakh chart patterns. So now we have a library where we built 1 lakh chart patterns, right, across time durations. Now what we'll do, we'll run thousands of instruments on those chart patterns, and now the machine in its own robustness or in its own adaptive way will figure out what kind of chart patterns are fit for what kind of markets, what kind of instruments, and what kind of prediction power they have. So everything is assigned in this, right? This chart pattern happened on this instrument. This is the probability of this happening next. So everything boils down to probability only, right? So we have built this exhaustive library of chart patterns. We given input of thousands of instruments to it, and we calculated the probabilities of what will happen. And then we use a lot of libraries which are available to us to then cluster some chart patterns. Okay, these are the chart patterns which are relevant for this instrument. These are the chart patterns which are relevant for this instrument. And this all happens on probability basis, right? And then the final engine happens which they said, okay, on this kind of probability, which will take trade at this allocation with this kind of stop loss or this kind of risk money on the table. And that's a final layer of us which will decide, okay, this risk, this allocation for this kind of probability. And we build this entire ecosystem. So now we are not, see, when I used to do chart pattern, there's always some bias, right? Whenever I try to, let's say I'm looking at chart of Nifty, normally if I'm biased, bullish in my mind, I look to find some kind of long trigger in the chart, right? Chart patterns historically used by people like that only. They have a bias in mind, they look for the trigger in the chart. But when we do it through machine, there's no bias. The machine will find the bias, the machine will find the trigger, the machine will find the risk, the machine will find the allocation. Everything will be done by machine. And when you say about robustness, right, validations, right? So we don't, if that entire ecosystem was probably running on one instrument or two instrument or three instrument, we'll have rejected it. We only run ecosystems which can work on variety of instruments. So if this ecosystem that we build for chart patterns, if that can work on thousands of instruments, then it will go into production. Otherwise, it will never go into a production because it's working on few symbols. You can always optimize it for some less number of instruments. We don't do that. Curve fitting is very high when you have a smaller trading universe. So we try to build robust systems which work on wider range of, again, that's where being global helps, right? You have data of so many exchanges. So some ecosystem that you built that working on a wide range of universe, and that's how we validate our systems. This is, and A lot of time we do out of sample validations as well, but we believe the cross validation, where something is working on a cross section of universe, that's a much bigger validation than what you can get out of sample. So that is one style of, like I just say, right, the research that we do, right, or then try to find pattern which we trade in the market. Then there's another set of patterns that we try to find in the market, right? See, market, we consume data in our strategies at like a nanosecond level. Again, just to give you one nanosecond, like 1000 nanosecond means 1 microsecond, 1000 microsecond means 1 millisecond, and 1000 millisecond means 1 second. So that kind of 10 to a minus 9. So we consume data in our strategies at a nanosecond level. And market at its core bare level, the orders that are coming to the market happening at a nanosecond level, right? Those are the actual architecture, right? Eventually, everything is demand and supply, right? Everything is demand and supply. At what price demand comes, at what price demand vanishes, and at what price supply comes, and what price supply vanishes, right? Everything is about that only. And so, observing that data, at what price the demand is coming, at what price demand is vanishing, at what price supply is coming, at what price supply is vanishing at a nanosecond level, again, across a wide variety of universe, across exchanges. This data, obviously, because there are only few firms who have the capability to ingest this data and process intelligence from this data, again, it gives you superior alpha, because even if I tell you that alpha, it's not like this cakewalk to build technology to use this alpha in your production, right? So this is another way for us to do research, find patterns, and keep executing thousands of trades in a day.
To summarize, what essentially building quantitative models is to use machines to identify patterns slash recurring patterns, and the data that goes into this is quantitative data and all the data that comes in live from the exchange: price, volume, open interest, order details, and the way Ajay explained, at nanosecond level, how the orders get filled and how they get consumed. Um, the machine tries to analyze all this and takes decisions across instruments, across geographies, across asset classes.
That's a very important piece, right? So if for any new researcher when we join us, right, this is the first thing that we try to tell them, right? If you build a model which is working on one instrument, it's not a research, it's a curve fitting exercise. You can always fit a curve when you use very minimum data points, right? So the research means finding an ecosystem which works on thousands of instruments. That's what research is, not fitting one symbol or one underlying. So that's a very important piece of the way we train our researchers as well.